Now, there has been some criticism that there's an absence of standards in operations and maintenance in the Arab world. Coming into the market and seeing what you saw, is there really an absence of those standards? And if there is an absence, has already been anything done to introduce standards, be it in the sectors that I mentioned or in other sectors?
Yeah, there absolutely is an absence of standards, and there is the real opportunity. And there are things being done. Part of what we are introducing to our team within Key Facilities Management in Egypt is the mechanism to establish standards. Now, the standard of something tangible is very easy. The standards of a service is much more challenging and difficult to identify and measure performance. We have introduced a methodology to do that, and that helps our staff in the organisation to strive to deliver standards that meet our stakeholder group's expectations.
Okay. Is facilities management a project that has a fixed start date and an end date, or is it a continuous process? I mean, do you just go in and fix things up and leave, or do you stay around and see how things go?
No, facilities management is the one built environment professional discipline that exists from cradle to grave in any project. And what I mean by that is, when a project starts in the thinking of the design, we have a valid input to that design process. We don't replace architects or engineers, but we challenge them in what they design to make sure that it's something that will operate efficiently and effectively. That runs through the construction process, and then that runs through the life. So facilities management in the whole life cost of a project actually represents 80% of the cost. Only 15% is involved in design and construction.
Okay.
Yet that's what gets all the attention.
Yeah.
And then many organisations, and there are plenty of examples in Egypt, once you finish that design and construction, that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody actually maintains and makes
up.
sure that the investment is maintained and sustained throughout the life of, or potential life of that facility.
Okay. Now, perhaps on a more macroscopic scale, could you perhaps describe to our viewers a relationship or link between facilities management and its impact on an economy, be it the Egyptian economy or the British economy?
I think it's about squeezing out inefficiencies and improving effectiveness. It's effectiveness of all resources. So it's effectiveness of the return on the investment that's been put into the project. It's effectiveness of the use of taxpayers' money. But as Stan has said, this is a continuous process, so it's not just at the very early stage, it's over the lifetime of a project. So, companies tend to look where facilities management does not exist at the early, design, build and handover stage of a facility. If you're looking at the lifetime of a project, which goes 60 years, 70 years, 80 years it could be. If you look at that longer time scale and imagine the amount of money that you're actually going to be saving over the life of a project, if you apply these principles at the front end. So this is where I think the scope for huge efficiencies by managing resources in the broader sense much more effectively.
Okay.
We also talked about standards a moment ago, and one of the things, if I can just mention this, is we introduced also at the embassy just a couple of weeks ago the concept of investors in people, the IIP standard. And this is a standard that operates in the UK. 97% of British government employees operate under this particular standard, and Key Facilities Management itself operates under the standard of investors in people. So this is another way that you can see as an introduction of standards across the board, not just in terms of the standards, technical standards, but the standards of the deployment of resources, human resources, and the way people are operating, getting the best out of any project and the way it's actually managed.
Okay. Now, I don't want our viewers to get a wrong understanding of when does facilities management thrive, which we said was during a recession. Does that mean, that probably doesn't mean that when things are much rosier, that things go downhill for facilities management. It seems to be there would be a consistent need in any given market for facilities management.
Yes, the comment about the recession is simply that's when there is an opportunity to get the attention of the board.
Yeah.
Facilities management offers value on a continuous basis if it's delivered properly and efficiently and effectively. And in our experience, facilities management as a different approach. It typically will be self-financing when it's done properly. So this barrier about an extra cost actually in reality doesn't happen. 9 times out of 10, I'm not saying it never happens, but the value that you bring in terms of the medium to long term of how you manage those assets, those overheads, those costs, and for a lot of people, the headaches that come with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are real tangible values to most organisations where they adopt it.
Okay.
The point about barriers and getting over this point about cost, I was reading just this morning about an organisation in the UK called the Carbon Trust, and that's a private company. It has some government funding, and it exists to make the transition in the UK economy to a low carbon effective high tech economy. And they've published some information very recently about reducing the carbon footprint for businesses, and they did a survey, and businesses, when you ask them in this survey, how much do you think you will save if you become more energy efficient and reduce your carbon footprint, and the response is on average 1 to 4%.
Okay.
Therefore, they think we'll only save that amount of money.
Yeah.
Therefore, is it really worth going to the hassle of doing that? The reality is, it's double digit. They're saving at least 10% plus by operating in this sort of new way of thinking.
Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. I'd like to thank you both, of course, Mr. Stan Mitchell, the founding chairman of the Global Facilities Management Association. Thank you very much. And Mr. Alan Penrith, the UK Trade and Investment Director. Thank you very much as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this edition of Business World. We hope that you enjoyed and understood most of what we talked about in terms of facilities management, that it has given you new ideas. I mean, of course, be it for individual or business needs, corporations needs. Much more coming up here on Nile TV International, including Nile Cruise, and later on at midnight Cairo local time, Panorama News. I'm Yusuf Gameduddin, and I'll be back with another show next week at Friday, same time, 9:20 Cairo local time. That's all. Thank you for watching.